Welcome. So often we hear teachers saying, oh, the parent conferences are next week and I have this one child. I just don't know how I'm going to go about communicating to this parent the problem I'm having without having the parent feel terrible about it. I really wish I didn't have to deal with it. Well, what we're going to look at now in this segment is a parent conferencing process where both you and the parent, regardless of what you have to deal with in terms of that parent's child, will feel comfortable because you're actually going to come away with a plan that hopefully will begin to resolve whatever issues you need to deal with for sure. So we're going to go through the 5 steps of a parent conferencing process. But before we even get to step 1, although what I'm going to say is in part of step 1, is we have to consider the actual physical arrangement in which you will have a conference with either one or more parents. It might be both parents, mother and dad, or legal guardian, or just one single parent. But either way, you want it to be where it's conducive to the parent being able to listen and you being able to listen and communicate effectively. So first of all, consider how you're going to set up the arrangement. You don't want to be sitting behind your desk. Remember, some of the parents that are going to come in do not consider a school user-friendly because when they went to school, it was definitely not necessarily a pleasant place. They weren't very successful. So they have a modicum of anxiety just stepping into a school to begin with. And it often explains why some parents won't even come unless absolutely essential. But we want parents to feel comfortable. We want them to feel welcomed regardless of what we have to say about their child. So don't sit behind the desk. Sit in a comfortable setting similar to this where the parent, it can be a school desk or chair, but sit here, a chair rather. But sit where you're here and the parent is across from you. There's no obstacle or barrier in between the two of you that would be considered an anxiety-producing item. So therefore, let's get to step 1, or the introduction of the parenting conference. Now, there are 3 components to the introduction, or step 1. And they're easy to remember because they kind of rhyme. They're called the highline, feel fine, outline. And the highline is you welcome the parents. In other words, you say, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, for coming in this evening for the parent conference. And then you offer them a seat. And this is the beginning of feel fine. You say, I'd like you to please have a seat. Here you're welcomed. And then it's nice if you have some refreshments to offer them. It doesn't have to be fancy, but just maybe would you like a soda or a cup of coffee, or maybe in the evening you'll have a tray of cookies. Would you like to have some cookies? Something to make them feel psychologically as comfortable as is possible. Because some of them come with a fear of, oh goodness, what am I going to hear? And so you're trying to relax them in order for them to be able to fully attend to what you're going to be saying with each other. So it's the highline, feel fine. Now the outline is you're going to let them know in advance the order of how the conference is going to proceed. And so you're going to let them know what we call the 3 R's in the particular order that are going to happen. So let's next go to the first R. The first R is called recall. And that means where you're going to give the parent or parents, not the teacher now, not yourself, but the parents an opportunity to first speak. You're going to let them recall anything they would like to tell you about their son or daughter. So it might sound like this. Now, Mrs. Johnson, is there anything that you would like to tell me about Danny before we begin? I want to give you an opportunity. Tell me anything that you think you want me to know, that I ought to know. Now, why do you believe, I'm asking you now, the teacher, why do you believe it's critical to let the parent or parents speak first? Yes, it's important to let them speak first because, first of all, until they can say to you what they had hoped to be able to say to you, they won't be able to focus on what you're going to say after. And secondly, what they tell you might affect what you will say in the future. It may change, you may adjust what you had planned. So you also are communicating with that you value their input as much as what you hope they will value that you have to say. So you give them a chance to say what they need to say. Now, some parents may say, gee, I can't think of anything I need to say at the moment. And you say, that's fine, but if you think of anything during the conversation, certainly you're welcome to interject and tell it. Now, sometimes, on the other hand, they have an issue with their ex-spouse, and so they use that occasion to talk about that, not in relation to their child, and you have to stop them. You know, they may vent about this other person and start bad-mouthing that person, and you have to say, I hear what you're saying, however, we're here tonight to talk about Danny, so let's continue talking about Danny. So sometimes you have to draw them back into the real purpose of why you're coming together. So the first part then is recall, giving them an opportunity to say what they need to say. Now, the second R, which is the third part of the whole conference, is called reinforcement. Now, this is where you have to first come up with something positive to tell them about their child. Now, in some cases, you're hard-pressed. You have to really think hard about that because what's on your mind is something that maybe isn't positive. So you have to think this through. You want to have this planned carefully before you sit down with them and begin. So think of something that is really a positive. It may be that he comes to school every day. That may be it. But you have to come up with something positive. Remember, these are their children, and they need to hear something that is positive, that you can positively reinforce the child for to the parent. So it may sound like that, you know. Danny, you see that Danny gets to school every day, and good for you for doing that, and good for Danny for being in attendance. Because unless he's in attendance every day, he's not going to be a successful learner. So that is very important that he continue to do that. Good for both of you. So you want to positively reinforce a specific behavior, such as attending school every day, or completing his tasks in class, or speaking polite, whatever it may be. You need to find something positive that you can compliment. And you can pick more than one or two to compliment the child for. And this will help relax the parent a bit. Then the third R, which is the fourth part of the conference process, is called review. This is the point where if there is an issue that you need to address with the parent, you address this issue. And you have to be specific in terms of what that issue is. For example, it might be the child doesn't complete his math worksheets in a timely fashion. Now, it's not enough, however, to point out what the problem may be. First of all, the parent may know what it is anyway, but it's not enough just to point that out. You also, and this is the key that is often missing in a parent conference, you have to come up with a specific plan that you are implementing or are going to begin to implement to address that problem. It's like going to a doctor and you're sick. Well, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, you're sick, okay, goodbye. You know, you're not there to hear that. You already know you're sick in some cases. What you want to hear is, now what do we need to do to get me well again, or to the degree I can be well? Well, it's the same in a parent conference. You may address a problem, whatever that may be, but also, what do you believe is a plan to help fix that? What can be a possible solution? So you have to come across, remember, you're the instructional leader. The parents need to hear from you in the school setting what's going to be taking place to help get that problem resolved. And so that's the reinforcement piece. Now, the parent may be an integral part of that. For example, it may be the parent has to sign off on something at night, and that's part of the solution as well, whatever that part may be. So you can include that in this review part. And then finally, of course, at the end, you want a closure. you want to be able to wrap it up, not just leave it hanging. So what you'll once again do is go back and with the parent share what you complimented the child for, and encourage the parent to let the child know this is something that it's wonderful, and to keep doing it when he or she is in school. And also then the reinforcement piece, to review what is a specific plan in place to help remediate this issue. At this point also, if there's going to be a very specific follow-up meeting, let's say we need to get together now in 3 weeks to set up an appointment to take a look at the progress the child is making in regard to the plan. At that point, you again then set that up. And at the very end, once again, be sure to thank the parent for his or her time and willingness to come in to discuss their child. But before we finally leave this, let's once again just take a look at what those 5 steps are. Now, once again, just let's review visually the 5 steps of a parent conference. First, we have the introduction. We welcome them, make them feel as comfortable as possible. We welcome them, we make them, give them an opportunity to sit down, maybe have something for refreshments, and then we're going to outline these 3 pieces. We're going to tell them that first they're going to get an opportunity in the recall section to tell me whatever they feel they want the teacher to know about the student. Then we're going to reinforce the student for 1 or more things that are a positive, that we hope continue to exist and occur. And finally, if there's a problem here, we will pick a piece to review. Now, let's say there isn't a problem. Well, you can pick an additional piece here to review that is a positive as well, for sure. Because we can always increase a positive behavior, and that might be the way that you review it for a student who pretty much is about as positive as can be. And then finally a closure, which is really a wrap-up, a summarization of what took place in the reinforcement piece, what took place in the review, which must include the plan that will be in place to either fix a problem or continue a positive behavior occurring.